Hey guys, we're back with another video, and today we're taking a look at the CV Fabrication charge pipes for the 2.7 liter Ford Bronco. Before we get into the step-by-step installation, I want to take a couple of moments to talk about my overall impressions after having them installed for about a week, and then just a couple of things that may help you if you're looking at installing these charge pipes in the future. So first off, if you don't have a cold air intake and you plan on getting one in the future, go ahead and do it all at the same time. It will save you a lot of time. It is so much easier. Intakes like the Injen, the K&N, the SMB, the AFE that have replacement pipes that go to the turbos on both sides. If you're getting one of those intakes, do it at the same time as the charge pipes. It will save you a lot of headache and time. If you're going to do a Roush, if you're going to do like a Corsa or something like that where it's just a box, well, my suggestion is to not do that type of intake. But if you have one or you want to go that route, you don't have to worry about it. You can add these after the fact. It won't affect anything. A couple of things I noticed after having these on for about a week. I'll start with three things. The first of which is that the blow-off valve, if you have an aftermarket one, it's going to make a higher pitched noise after you build boost and let off the gas. It just sounds a little bit different. It sounds good. No complaints there. So that's all good. Second thing is that I was not expecting much of a performance increase installing these charge pipes, but I can tell you, just for having them installed for about a week, there's definitely a performance increase with this current configuration. If you have a stock 2.7 liter, you probably won't see much of a difference. You might see increased throttle response or better throttle response. That might be it. If you have a Ford Performance Tune or any piggyback tuner that's on the market like JB4, Pulsar, VR Tune, Race Chips, Panda, whatever, you might see a bigger difference if you have a piggyback or Ford Performance Tune or Whipple Tune for your 2.7 liter. But I can definitely tell an improvement in performance. I can tell an improvement in throttle response. My Bronco now can pretty much start to spin the tires when I'm running about 10 to 15 miles an hour and I just stomp it. It will actually spin the tires. It's never done that before. Keep in mind, this is a full bolt-on setup. I got intercooler, cold air intake, charge pipes, downpipes, catback, and an E85 tune. So I'm pushing over 400 wheel horsepower, so it's going to make probably more of a difference with the charge pipes than it would obviously for a stock Bronco. So that's my overall impressions. Overall, I'm very happy with them. These are the best bang for your buck when it comes to charge pipes. They're the most cost-effective option. I know that these T-clamps aren't the most beautiful thing to look at in the world, but they don't move. They hold the couplers on there very well, so don't fret about these T-clamps. They do a really good job. If you're considering these, please consider using my affiliate link. I am an affiliate with CV Fabrication. I have a lot of their products installed in my Bronco. So I have no problems recommending them. I became an affiliate, so if you want to save 5% on these, you can use my code found on the screen. Sometimes they run a sale where you can get 10% off. I think right now they might have a 10% code. You can still click my link in the video's description or in the comments section. I will still get a small kickback if you use my link, regardless if you use their code to save money. So please consider doing that. And if you guys have any questions about the charge pipes or really anything about the Bronco, I plan on making some more videos here in the future talking more about the upgrades, the performance modifications, etc. But if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section, and let's jump into the install video. Thanks.
All right, first up, let's check out what's inside the box. We get a bag of T-bolt clamps and some hardware, a bag of couplers, intercooler aluminum couplers, and the charge pipes themselves. You get three sizes of T-bolt clamps. You get an 8779, a 7567, and a 5547. The smallest clamps are used to install the couplers or boots to the turbos themselves. Here's a look at the bag of hardware, and here's a look at the aluminum couplers that attach to the intercoolers and charge pipes. The charge pipes themselves have a wrinkle black finish, and if you don't plan on using the 1/8 inch bung holes for meth or nitrous, then go ahead and tighten both with a 5mm hex key. I wanted to quickly note that this installation tutorial is primarily if you already have an aftermarket cold air intake, though it shouldn't differ too much if you're using the OEM intake. So the first step you're going to want to take is to disconnect the negative battery cable. You'll want to do this anytime you work on your Bronco because you don't want to accidentally turning on. And then anytime you do performance modifications, it's always a good idea to reset your ECU. Next, if you have a modular front bumper, then you'll want to remove the four 15mm bolts that hold the front skid plate. The capable front bumper isn't too much different, but either way you'll want to remove it to get access to the charge pipe connections at the intercooler. Next, grab a trim removal tool. You want to remove the clips that are attached to the charge pipe that connect to the passenger side turbo. Now we can move over to the passenger side turbo and loosen the band clamp that holds the hot side charge pipe. This will either be a 7 or 8 millimeter bolt, and go ahead and pull it off when it's loose enough. Now grab a pair of pliers and remove the rubber hose clamp that is attached to the intake piping and bypass valve housing. Next, pull off one side of the hose. Now disconnect the bypass valve harness by pulling back the white tab and pressing down to remove. Next, you'll uninstall the 3 screws or bolts, depending on your configuration, that hold the charge pipes to the intake piping. 2 of these are shown here. The other one is right behind the bypass valve. Now we can remove the spring clips that connect to both hot side charge pipes to the intercooler piping as shown here. You can pull back on both sides of the clips and just pull straight up. Remove both braided hoses that rest on top of the charge pipe from their secure attach points as shown. Now shine some light onto the driver's side wheel well and remove the band clamp that holds the charge pipe to the turbo. It's the one that I am pointing to here. Remove the connection at the cold charge pipe by pressing in the white tab and pulling straight out. You will also need to pull up on the charge pipe to remove the rubber standoff as shown here. Now you can pull off all the charge pipes in one piece as shown. Next, we can remove the hot side charge pipes that connect to the intercooler. You can do this by getting under the vehicle and removing the spring clamps from the aluminum coupler, then pull to remove. Hot side removed. Now let's work on the cold side charge pipes. I won't show the whole process of removing one side of my cold air intake, but you will have to remove the passenger side portion of the cold air intake or the OEM intake in order to get to the bolts of the cold charge pipes. This process will vary a little bit depending on the intake that you have. Just make sure to be careful when doing it. Now with one side of the intake removed, we can now get to the 8 millimeter bolt that holds the charge pipe to the bracket. You will need to get another 1/4 inch ratchet with a 10 millimeter socket to hold the nut on the back side in order to remove this bolt. You can try using a 10 millimeter wrench as well. This can be a bit tricky, so do take your time. I don't have a video of it, but next you can loosen the clamp that connects the upper cold pipe to the lower one. After it's removed, go ahead and pull them apart, and when that's done, go back under the Bronco to remove the clips on the aluminum coupler like you did on the other side. Now let's head over to the throttle body, and we're going to remove this sensor that sits on top of it. So first you want to disconnect the clip by pulling down on the white tab and then pressing it in to remove. Then grab a T30 Torx bit to remove this sensor itself. After that is done, grab a trim removal tool and remove the clip that holds the wire to the OEM pipe. Now you're going to want to loosen the clamp that holds the coupler to the throttle body and then pull to remove. Now it's time to remove both cold side charge pipes. Now at this point, all of the OEM charge pipes are now removed. So let's grab a flathead screwdriver and remove the OEM spring-loaded clips that are located on both OEM charge pipes, because we will be reusing these. Now going back to the pain in the butt bolt that's hard to access. Now you can go back to the original method, or you can install one of the standoffs that came with the hardware package. You actually can reuse the OEM bolt on this standoff as it uses the same threads. So this is a route that I took. Next, install the coupler onto the throttle body, making sure to include a clamp. Then you can install the cold charge pipe with another large clamp. Now don't tighten these clamps all the way, as you may need to make adjustments. Now we can install the sensor back onto the cold charge pipe. Just use a washer and one of the bolts provided in the kit, and make sure you push the sensor all the way down. You can use a 5 millimeter hex key to tighten, and then lastly reconnect the connector. Now grab another one of those screw standoffs from the hardware bag and install it to the location as shown on screen. You can use the OEM bolt, but just don't tighten it all the way down quite yet. And I don't have any video of the rest of the cold charge pipe installed, but as you can see, I bolted the lower charge pipe to the bracket, as we talked about, and then I used 2 clamps and a single coupler to make the connection with the lower and upper cold charge pipe. Notice how the T-bolt clamps are installed in the orientation they're in. You'll then want to go back under the Bronco to make the connection to the intercooler. You'll need the aluminum coupler, a large elbow and 2 clamps, and then the OEM spring clip. Now be mindful of how close the boot is to the alternator pulley. Mine's very close, but it does not touch, so just make sure it's not touching the alternator pulley. Before you install the hot side charge pipes, go ahead and reassemble your cold air intake. That will take a little bit, so depending on the intake you have, go ahead and put that all back together before we move on. Now we can move on to the hot side charge pipes. We'll install the boot at the bottom of the pipe as shown, and then start guiding the pipe down to the intercooler inlet. Now go back underneath the Bronco and make the connection to the intercooler. You'll need 2 clamps, 1 aluminum coupler, and then 1 boot and OEM spring clip. Once that's completed, move back to the top, grab the small piece of charge pipe, and attach the boot to the end as shown. Now I don't show it here, but make sure you grab the smallest clamp to tighten this boot to the turbo. It's best to do this through the wheel well. Now grab a coupler and 2 clamps and connect the charge pipes together as shown. You can tighten these clamps after everything is connected properly. Next, let's reconnect the tube to the cold air charge pipe as shown. Now we can move on to the last charge pipe. Again, grab another coupler and 2 clamps to connect both charge pipes together. Leave the clamps a little loose until you get the boot clamps attached to the turbo itself. After the boot is connected to the turbo, you go ahead and tighten all the clamps and make sure you install the original hardware to keep the charge pipes bolted down. There's 3 places to do that. Next, go back to the OEM charge pipes and remove the OEM bypass valve or your aftermarket bypass valve, and also remove the rubber hose. You're going to want to install this bypass valve with the provided screws and rubber hose as shown. And that's it. I'll take you for a quick look around so you can see the orientation of all the clamps and how I installed everything. Just again, make sure all the clamps are tight. When all this is done, you can go ahead and reconnect your battery and you are good to go. Go ahead and start the Bronco up. Make sure there's no leaks. Make sure the boot is not hitting the alternator pulley. Now you can drive the Bronco for about 25 miles and the ECU will automatically adjust to the charge pipes. Well, I hope this video helped you out, and thanks again for watching.